Hello, everybody. I'm Peter Grant. Welcome to This Week in Metals. And welcome, Peter Thomas. How are you, sir?
We're all good. A shortened week, but really interesting trade. Very, very choppy this week, Pete.
Yeah, and when all was said and done, not very significant changes. Gold was
Yeah,
up 0.4%. Um, so nothing too terribly exciting there. I mean, we're still within some type of consolidation pattern. I'm calling it a triangle. Um, and kind of tracking the dollar. I mean, moving inversely to the dollar
I
of
think
late.
that's a good analysis. I did a Bloomberg interview this week in which I said just follow the dollar, and so I agree with you 100%.
Right. I do like that gold is sort of tracking the 9-week moving average. Not something I watched terribly closely, but it just happened as I called up the weekly chart. I noticed that it had dipped a couple of times below the 9-week, but it always closed above it. But we're kind of reaching the inflection point. The end of the triangle is nigh,
Right.
and we're going to
Well,
have to pick a
I refer to
direction.
that as a compression point, where if it breaks out on either side, once it squeezes down like that, technically, one side or the other generally get that is a pop or a break, one or the other. There's
Yeah,
usually
and
no in between on those.
I would say more often than not, it breaks out in the direction of the dominant trend. And I maintain that the trend is up at this point. So I'd be leaning a little bit that way, I suppose, going into this week. The market didn't like being below 1,900 bucks, but it certainly didn't like being above
No,
2,000 either. So well, those
like
are
you're
the
saying,
levels.
it's a very highly choppy week with consolidation and talking about gold now. We've got peace breaking out all over the place. COVID looks like it's coming down a little bit, so we got two things working against gold, and so everyone's looking at positive things happening globally, going, well, let's watch the dollar, and the dollar's been trading like a foreign currency all of a sudden.
Yeah, so I mean, generally higher, but I wouldn't be terribly impressed with the momentum if I was on the long side of the dollar at this point. And I think the trend there is still down, and that favors gold. As you mentioned, some brighter points with regards to COVID, talk of
Yeah.
vaccinations that are in phase 3 trials. That's all encouraging news. Um, at least the kindergarten and first grade in my kids' school is going back in the week
That's
after
great.
next. That's good
Yep.
news, even for guys got 2 kids in middle school. At least we're moving in the right direction. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
encouraging. The data have been generally good. You know, we had
Oh,
talked
yeah.
we had talked previously that
Mhm.
with the kind of resurgence of COVID that we saw in July, we thought that the upcoming data might be a little bit shaky, and it was to some degree in some of the data points, but overall, I would say that the data that have been coming in have been pretty favorable. So that in terms of safe haven demand might be working against gold, but heck, we still got a lot going on. I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
the central
And the other
banks.
thing, it's what's important for our viewers to understand is one of the reasons that we're seeing a shortage of coins right now is because there's lack of workers at the mint to move the finished product. It's not that they've run out of silver or gold; they just don't have the physical power in individuals to move all the products. So as COVID starts to drop and we see the mints moving product, we'll start to coin shortages in. But for the
Yeah.
moment, it doesn't look that way. So I'm still leaning your way, which is I'm favorable.
Right. And like I said, supporting the dollar is that, the central banks are still in very much accommodative mode. And
Yes,
so that tends to favor the precious metals and be negative,
absolutely.
the dollar and other currencies for that matter.
Yep.
You may have heard this, we have a fairly contentious election coming up
No.
here. Yeah, and for the last several election cycles, just when you couldn't, even possibly imagine a more contentious election cycle,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
it's getting worse and worse. Certainly um, the unrest, the social unrest in the country is factoring into people's investment decisions as well. So I think that there are
Sure.
some things that are encouraging, that are maybe taking the edge off of the safe haven demand, but at the same time, there's plenty of reason to still be adding to gold positions for that very reason, for safe haven and uncertainty, kind of broad-based general uncertainty.
Yep. So I mean, that basically it covers gold. I mean, gold is just that's where it's at. That's what's going on. I mean, it's that's
Familiar
how it's being
territory.
driven, and we're gonna we have at Zaner Precious Metals lots of product. A lot of people are selling at these levels. We've been all of our affiliates have been stockpiling our vaults that we use. They aren't our proprietary vaults, but that we use. These individuals have been loading up on silver, gold, platinum, still a little bit of a shortage. Palladium, same, but we can get your product as fast as possible. So that's
Yeah.
kind of lightened up a little bit. So that's a good thing.
And the
When you think
premiums
about
came.
silver, Pete, I
Yeah,
mean,
I was going to say.
it's been
Yeah, the premiums came down in silver, particularly a little this week,
right,
which is always a great sign and suggestive of the availability that you just spoke to. But silver
right,
ended up down 0.7% this week. It was the
yeah.
second consecutive lower weekly close. Um, on Tuesday last week, the floor kind of fell out and it dipped briefly below 26, but it couldn't sustain those lows
Yeah, it didn't stay that
and
long.
popped right
Yeah,
back up.
yeah. I mean, you could see that people were aggressively buying at that level, and it just buoyed right back up again. And people want to own it at 25, which I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, so 25 handle seemed appealing. Sort of
Yep.
the low end of the range, or the base of the triangle in silver, is all the way down
Okay.
to 23,385. So we haven't even gotten close to that. So again, as we work through this consolidation period, again, I find myself leaning a little bit to the bullish side
I
as
can see
we
why.
we reach as the market coils in here and hopefully builds up pressure. And I think the next move is more than likely from a technical perspective to the upside, but not to say we couldn't see a head fake to the downside, because that's what silver
Well,
does.
I mean, silver can be a little schizophrenic. It's always kind of done what it wants to do. But at the moment, all we could say is that the fundamentals look good. There's still a lack of product around. There's still good demand on breaks. So right now, you got to be a little bit friendly.
Yeah. Platinum was up 2.7% last week. That looked pretty good. Still, again, well within the range. And I'm not quite
Yeah, it's
sure
holding
whether.
900 and it seems happy here.
Yeah, I was going to make that point that,
Yeah,
900 on the downside, 1,000 on the upside.
right.
It traded briefly above there a couple weeks ago.
Sounds reminiscent of the rest of the metals market. They're
Yeah,
all pretty comfortable at this range.
yeah. And so I
Except
think
of course
it's,
for the one exception is going to be palladium, which we still have a fundamental shortage of ore, and our recyclers are killing themselves every day to get autocats in for platinum, palladium, and rhodium. They're not going to be able to meet the demand. We're going to have a shortfall, and the price is reflecting it, Pete. Right?
yeah,
Less
yeah.
product,
So
higher prices.
up 1.1% last
There
week. It
you
was the
go.
fourth consecutive higher weekly close. And while you recall that the week prior, so 2 weeks ago, Palladium set a 5-month high at 23.8550. That level is holding on the upside thus far. But this past Friday, we closed stronger, and as I said, up
Yeah.
1.1% on the week. So still looks pretty good. And again, I would be leaning towards the bullish side. Again, probably a little disappointed that it didn't really prosecute the upside breakout that we saw 2 weeks ago. But um, it's certainly not selling off in here.
Well, I think what we have to look at is demand. Demand has been okay. We are seeing cars and light trucks being sold. The numbers aren't bad. China is also still pushing to buy products. So the underlying is good, but not at these levels. It's pretty much where it should be. We're going to have to see an increase in demand to push it through 2,500, but it can happen. Not even a question.
Right. And as we talked about last week, not only did we talk about auto sales last week, but we also talked about the power issues in South Africa, that
Right.
is likely to exacerbate the tightness on the supply side.
Yeah, yeah, and there's just no question that without electricity, it increases the cost of production, and it's going to be reflected in the price. So
Yeah.
that's exactly.
Well, last week, we saw monetary policy decisions from the Bank of Canada and the ECB. Not surprisingly, everybody kind of holding steady at this
Yeah,
point,
nobody did anything.
still very accommodative. This week, we're going to see the Fed, the BOJ, and the Bank of England announce policy. And I think the expectation here, too, is that everybody just sort of holds steady as
Yeah,
there are
I,
these
I
sort of
don't I
encouraging
don't see
signs.
England doing anything because they're not in a position to do anything right now. They what England desperately needs is stability right now with Brexit still going on. So I don't see them getting crazy, and so I think we're just going to see a kind of a neutral week next week.
Yeah. Yeah. And so last week, we also saw PPI and CPI coming a little bit hotter than expectations.
Yeah, they were good numbers. Yeah,
Claims, you know, below a million, that seems to be the,
right.
the the mark that everybody was looking for right now. So claims in the previous week were 884,000, a little
That
bit
was
up
it.
above expectations, which were 828. Wholesale sales, another good number,
Yeah, it was surprising,
slowing.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
up 4.6% on expectations of plus 2.8, down from 9% in June, but and so slowing, but still a solid number.
yeah,
And as we look ahead to this week, as I said, we've got the two-day FOMC meeting starting on Tuesday.
yeah.
Industrial production, the expectation is plus 1%. Um, we have import-export prices that are expected to be up modestly, plus 0.5 and plus 0.4 respectively. Retail sales, the expectation is plus 1%.
Which
And
isn't a
then,
bad number.
yeah, I mean, it's not a bad number. I mean,
Yeah.
it's certainly slowing from the big rebound that we saw,
Sure, but
as
but I mean, all things considered, I think I mean, it's a positive number,
yeah.
and
Um,
and I think when we look at retail sales, I mean, it's not durable goods, obviously, but look at what's going on in copper, right?
Yeah, yeah. So while copper ended down 1.1% last week, it was the first lower weekly close in five.
Yep.
Um, but
But look
again,
at
we
what
had
it closed above. If you look at when copper
yeah,
closes above $3, it's good with me, and
I
it's good
agree.
with our scrappers, and it's good with our end users and our producers. So we're seeing real strong numbers. And by the way, we're seeing some of the biggest demand we've ever seen for solvents and secondary markets and unstripped wire out of China. Hinge scrappers. We're going to see stuff moving out.
Yeah,
So it means to me that the underlying demand for secondary copper is very strong. So what that means is that when all of that cheaper copper gets cleaned up, they got to come back in and start consuming large amounts of product. And so I took a quick look at the LME's stockpiles. They were down last week 22%. That's a giant number.
yeah,
So we're seeing stockpiles in London getting cleaned up, deliverable stockpiles getting cleaned up, and barreled solvents getting taken away. Something's going on in copper, guys, and at $3, these numbers can support it. So Can we go
Yeah.
up or down from here? Maybe not. Maybe we're getting into what gold has been doing, and we're going to do a little basing up here around $3.
Yeah. I would point out that pretty good support level is formed at 295 as
There
well.
we go.
So
Good.
watch that level.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lot of I think the opportunity is still there. Kind of across the board in the
Yeah.
metals, and everything looks pretty decent at this point, and we'll
I
just
think so.
got to be
I mean, we're
patient.
getting. I mean, from you're the technical guy, and what you're telling us is we're in consolidation. I deal with our scrappers, miners, refiners, and they're all happy with these numbers. They're doing well. And product is moving too. So
Yeah.
really, everyone in our industry is doing quite well, and at an unusual time. I mean, we were active all through the summer, and usually it picks up in later October, and we're still cranking.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no summer doldrums this year.
No, not at
So,
all.
well, with that, I think we've covered everything. And
I hope
uh,
so.
yeah, give us a like, give us a follow.
Yep.
We're out there on all the social media channels and easy to find. Just search for Zaner
Tweet
Metals.
us our tweets, Metal Zaner, and where can they buy metal from us at, Peter, if they're looking for some reliable source?
ZanerPreciousMetals.com.
There we
There you go.
go.
I lowered
All
all the
right.
premiums on silver today. Get in there and get you some.
Get you a handful of that, boy.
All right, my friend, you have a great
All
trading
right.
week. Thank you guys
You
for watching.
too,
And I'm Peter Grant in Denver.
Pete Thomas, and be sure to follow us so this will be in your mailbox when it's released. Thanks a lot.